Something I've wanted to do for a long time is create some videos recapping my tournament, my experiences, kind of what I did, what was successful, what wasn't, kind of how I go about the whole competitive kayak fishing deal. Wanting to share some tips and techniques and hopefully encourage and inspire others to get into this thing. So this is my first attempt at this. Not everything went as smoothly as I wanted it to, but I did get as much footage as I can while still being an angler and fishing, trying to be competitive in this tournament. So looking at Lake Chickamauga, I had never fished that lake before. It was a whole different ordeal. The weather was going to be changing. I did get on the water Tuesday prior to the tournament for about 2 hours. And this is how that went.
It was raining so hard. It was 35 degrees. I missed 2 fish right off the bat because I couldn't get my fingers to reel fast enough to keep up with them. However, I did manage to land a 5-pounder. That was pretty awesome.
Let's go ahead and look into my first day, Wednesday morning of the tournament.
So they're predicting it's going to be up a few feet, like potentially 10 feet by the tournament. So I'm fishing shallow. I'm getting an eye on areas that could be really good when those fish are going to move, because quite honestly, I think those fish are going to move and they're going to move up fast.
That was accurate.
I've been throwing a lipless crankbait and a square bill around a little bit. Everything so far has come on the lipless. So right now I'm in the back of a pretty popular creek, just kind of looking around, fishing some shallow areas. I'm gonna kind of pick this apart and see what I can find out here. Sail Creek really stuck out to me because the main channel runs around the entire perimeter of this giant shallow flat that's loaded with flooded timber. Also saw these really good 2 identical cuts on either side of the big flat, both of which had the channel run right across it, cut it off, and allowed plenty of access for those bass to continue to push up really, really shallow into these cuts. So that was really attractive to me. Also really liked this long point coming out with the main creek here, knowing there'd be a ton of current in this area. This was going to ideally be my limit spot. Also coming out here into the main creek, fishy looking secondary stuff I'm looking for. You've got a big bluff wall right here, really good point, and again another big flat that could be potential spawning area. Another extremely useful tool I use all the time is Google Earth. You're able to see more defined creek channels, brush that will probably be underwater during the tournament. So I was really looking at areas that had a lot of exposed bank line for when that water began to rise. That was really key in my pattern. So right now I'm way in the back of a creek. This is a big shallow flat with brush everywhere. Little duck blind right here. They've got the creek channel. They can easily follow this and move up on it, because with conditions changing daily, I don't think we can get too keyed in on a spot. So the creek butts right up against that bank. I might go fish that a little bit. So all of this is going to be underwater come Saturday. So sometimes bass will take advantage of that current to feed. Try this little back eddy here. Looks like that sandbar comes way out too. That's why. All right, not a bad fish. So I snagged up there, and as soon as I popped that bait free, this thing smoked it. So how I've been fishing this, I'm kind of just ripping it and letting it fall. I'm not doing a straight retrieve. I saw Kevin Van Dam do this, I think on Kentucky Lake, in about 8 foot of water on a big flat. He was just sitting there ripping it up and letting it fall on a little bit of slack line. My St. Croix Legend glass rod, this is the 7.4 medium heavy moderate action. I love throwing the lipless crankbait on this rod. I've got a little Texas rig creature bait on another rod that I might pick up too. Might actually be better, but I'm gonna give this a shot for now. Pitched it right up against that lay down. So this is all gonna be underwater come time for the tournament. God, I can't believe someone didn't eat it right there. I'll just roll over that log. Every part of my being knows there's bass here.
I didn't have much luck on that deeper bank with the laydowns. I mean, I didn't have much luck there. But when I worked all the way back into that first little cut, that thing was loaded with bass.
There we go. That feels like a little bear fish. Yep, that's a good one. Again, it's when I kind of just popped it up and let it drop. Ooh, there's another one. Okay, I'm gonna probably leave this alone.
I had probably a 4 or 5 pounder swipe at my lipless crankbait. I caught 2 over 17. There was about 50 yards of continued shoreline up that creek that had brush piles, pallets, crappie beds. And I knew that once that water went up, those bass would continue to move on with it. And I made a mental note of all of those little brush piles and structure that was on that exposed bank line. About every 4th or 5th cast, I was snagging brim.
What is that? All right. Can tell you what those bass are eating. Or if that thing's face clean off. Tiny little area's got some fish. And that just means with that rain, I would think that's where they're going. I hate when there's lightning. It's really close. And my phone's dead. It's like the worst possible thing that could happen right now. I'm probably gonna be stuck here for a little bit. It's lightning really bad. So I'm gonna hang out on the bank, rest a bit, and get back on the water whenever I can. Back on the water. I have like a 30-minute break in the storm. I'm gonna get back to the ramp. Several fish over 17 inches. I mean, may not be a tournament winner, but it'll put you up there. So we'll see.
So then with day 2, let's go take a look at that. That was a whole different ball game.
So I also heard a lot of the bigger bass were coming north of Dayton. So then I started to move upriver and kind of key in on a lot of these real long, narrow, shallow sloughs coming off of the main river channel. What I wanted here was something that wasn't impossible to get to, but would be difficult for other people. There are only a few ramps up north, so what I really wanted in these sloughs, a nice defined deep channel these bass could kind of funnel along through, and then plenty of opportunities to dump out into very large, long, shallow flats. When looking at some of these northern sloughs, I knew the water was going to be up, so I wanted to see more areas that were noticeably more shallow. So when that water did rise, those fish could kind of continue their progress up onto those shallow areas. Also looking at sloughs that had a noticeably different water color. Bass boats in the area, multiple bass boats are always a plus, usually indicative of fishy areas. I mean, sometimes you can just kind of see stuff like these small little ponds here that you're not going to see on Navionics. Kind of helps you break down the water a little bit more quickly.
So I launched at an area, and like I said, I wanted to fish some sloughs that would be kind of tough to get to.
There we go. Looks like a little better fish. Oh yeah, that's a good fish. Yes, look at that. Oh, come here. Yes. That's a just choked it. Love seeing that. Man, this rod handled it so good. That's a good first fish to catch at this area. Let's take a look at that thing. That's a good first fish.
And the one that I ultimately picked was extremely difficult to get to. And the crazy thing about that is I found multiple fish over 20 inches up there pre-fishing. But they were in less than 1.5 feet of water. And I'm not talking about just right off of a main creek channel. I'm talking I had to paddle my hobie PA14 a good 200 to 400 yards across 1.5 feet of water, and they were as far back and as far up as they could possibly go. So that told me why those bass were there, and that there probably were a few more, but I wasn't confident enough that I could pull 10 fish out of that area. So that kind of made my game plan to go to Sail Creek. I had the numbers and multiple areas where I felt confident I could put up a quick 80 inches or so, and then load up, head way up north where I'd have no company, and upgrade a fish. Now, we all know when things go really good and seem so smooth and we feel like we've got a game plan completely dialed, it goes horribly wrong. Enter day one of the tournament. I get there in the morning, kick all the way back to Sail Creek, and little do I know, the entire creek, that way back cut, is completely blown out. I stayed there, wasted a few hours, loaded up, headed way up north. I have a few hours left, no fish yet. Kick up to my spot, bam, 19.5 incher. Lipless crankbait right off the bat. That was a pretty good feeling. However, I proceeded to miss 3 more fish on a spinnerbait and ended up with 1 big fish on day 1. But I felt pretty confident that I could go there first thing in the morning on day 2, fish that area, find the fish, and put up 5 good fish and potentially still have a decent day. Enter day 2. I should have known something was up when I saw the animals walking in pairs down towards the arc that was in the water. The water level had rose over 8 feet. I launched in the parking lot. By the time I got back into that slough, I had learned that the water went from 1.5 feet to about 8 feet, 8.5 feet, 9 feet in some places. That's when I pulled up Google Earth.
So I used Google Earth and had to paddle around until I found these areas, these small pockets that might potentially have that magic depth I was looking for. Looking at areas that were normally out of water.
I was able to navigate through the trees and the berms and find a little tiny narrow area where the depth was 2 foot exactly. And sure enough, those bass were loaded up in that area. The wind was ripping. The only thing that they would eat day 2 was a 3/4 ounce jackhammer in that color. So here's the problem with that. I proceeded to lose about a 5-pounder that hit right at the boat, lost another good fish I didn't see, had another 4 or 5-pounder jump up, spit it, missed another one, missed another one, missed another one. I think after about 7 fish, I realized that I had just started throwing my glass rod, which I absolutely loved, but I was not used to actually setting the hook near as hard as I should have. So once I kind of realized I needed to lay into it a little bit more, that next fish I hooked into came skipping across the water at me. So I ended up with 1 fish day 1 and 1 fish day 2. It was a bummer. I worked really hard. I grinded. I knew those fish were up there. I just had to find them, and I did find them. I just couldn't execute and put that together. It was really tough for a lot of people, but there were some guys that definitely figured it out and did really, really well. I was in such the tournament mindset that I was not GoProing most of day 1 or 2 during the tournament at all. I was more focused on fishing. I'm gonna try to do a little bit better at that, but I hope you guys learned something. I hope you can give me some feedback, say what you liked, what you didn't like, and I can continue to improve on this throughout the season. So a few people I'd like to thank. Hobie for putting on an awesome organization, St. Croix Rods, Best Rods on Earth, Low Rants, Calcoast, Bending Branches, Ram Mounts, Lunge and Lures. Thanks for supporting me in everything that I do. And last but not least, biggest thank you to a very good friend of mine and probably one of the best anglers I know, Mr. Jay Wallen, for the use of this nice camera, this office space. And guys, Jay has an incredible YouTube, an incredible platform. He is one of the most accomplished kayak tournament anglers out there and is a wealth of knowledge. He's also doing tournament recaps along with several other very educational videos. I've attached the link to his YouTube in my bio. Go check him out, subscribe, give me any feedback on anything you'd like to see done differently, anything you liked, didn't like, all of that good stuff. And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for next time. The next big tournament I'll be fishing is the National Championship in Shreveport, Louisiana. Caddo Cross, Bistineau, Red River. That is the next big tournament I'll be fishing, and I'll be sure to do another recap on that as well. Thanks guys, take care.